Hey there, everybody. Pete here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a show that has been requested by many of you over the last several months. And I know I kind of sort of tackled this in a three-part series where this was last year, where I talked about a lot of my concert experiences. And I basically went through the Ticket Stub album. This was, of course, inspired by a show that Jeff Young and I did on his Music Without Boundaries internet radio show, and I just kind of took it like a little one step further, and I actually went through the Ticket Stub archives here in the book. This is, I started going to shows in '81, so this is all the stuff since then, right? But we've had a number of people who have asked, well, Pete, I really want to hear what your top 10 or top 20 concerts of all time, what they are, what are those shows, and if you have any kind of little anecdotes and stuff that you can kind of add, right? So I decided a couple weeks ago, it's like, all right, I'm going to try and make this a reality. So I've been kind of jotting shows down and trying to put things in order, and I figured really quickly that a top 10 was probably not going to be possible. When you've seen as many shows as I have, and there's been a lot of them, it's kind of hard to kind of limit things, right? And then that grew to top 20, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to do 25 and leave it at that. So I've got a top 25 here. The more I kind of go through the book, the more I'm like, oh, that show was great, and oh, that show was great, and oh, he was great that night. But so I'm trying to leave it at the 25. This is the list that I'm coming up with now. If I were to stop and redo this again in a couple of weeks, the order might be a little different. There might be some stuff coming in that weren't in previously, so on and so forth. So I just want to start off by saying, some of you are probably going to be like, oh, but I know you saw this band and you didn't mention him in that list. Oh, I know you saw that guitar player. How come he's not on the list? I mean, guys, you can't include everything, all right? It's a top 25. I can't list all, 500 shows I've seen or whatever the number is, 1,000. I don't even know. I don't even know how many I've seen. It's a lot. So I tried to think of the most memorable for specific reasons, okay? And I'll kind of talk about them. So I guess I should start off at the back end, all right? So let's start off at number 25, all right? I've seen Rush a few times. I almost included the most recent tour, their farewell tour, because that was really good and really memorable. I ultimately decided to go with the first time I saw them, which was December 21st, 1981. Of course, we're talking about, moving pictures, exit stage left time, and this was at the Brendan Byrne Arena, East Rutherford, New Jersey, of course, with Riot opening up. A very cool show. It was, again, moving pictures was riding real high at the time. I was completely into it, and it just remains a really, really memorable show for me. Rush basically at the, apex of, their ascension. They would, of course, ride very high throughout the rest of the decade, but I think that in 1981, they were finally living out the fruits of all their labor. So, and for me, I was, 15 years old, soon to be 16 in literally like a week. So, pretty notable show for a young guy like me, right? So, coming in number 24, I'm going to go with something a bit more recent. Going to go to 2008, so August 30th, 2008, a couple months before my wedding. Myself, my now wife, but at the time soon-to-be fiance, or fiance soon-to-be wife, and a handful of friends all piled into a big vehicle, took a ride to Bethel Woods up in Bethel, New York, home of the original Woodstock, of course, festival back in 1969, to see Journey, Heart, and Cheap Trick. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, I'm sure you've seen more memorable shows than that. But I think that there was something about this night. All three bands were great. We did the tailgating thing, cooking food, drinking, having a grand old time. Cheap Trick got things started off in grand fashion. They're still so good live. They were great then. Heart were amazing. I had never seen Heart before at that point in time, and I was just blown away by how great Ann Wilson still is. And then Journey just completely kicked ass. And I had seen Journey numerous times before then, but I was just so impressed. That was my first time seeing them with Arnell on vocals. He nailed it. Just a great, great, memorable show. The place was packed. One of those kind of perfect place, perfect time, great friends type of thing. It was excellent. Coming in number 23, I'm going to go 2010, October 30, 2010, the Palace Theater up in Albany, New York. Styx playing all of the Grand Illusion and Pieces of Eight. Pretty special. Again, I had seen Styx before, but this for me was very special because I love both of those albums to death, and seeing them perform, both of them back to back, was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, number 22, Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, New Jersey, July 25th, 2015. Whitesnake, the Purple Tour. Again, I've seen Whitesnake plenty of times. That wasn't necessarily their best performance. I've seen a few of them where they've been spectacular, but there was something about that night for me, being a huge Deep Purple fan, just hearing a lot of those Purple classics from the Mark III era that you're never going to hear live anywhere unless, Coverdale and Crew or Glenn Hughes plays them, right? And my wife went with me. She had a great time. She and I can agree on Whitesnake, which is pretty cool. We stayed over there, so we didn't have to drive anywhere. So we had a great dinner. We, went to the bar, went to happy hour. We were pretty liquored up and just had a great time singing every lyric to every song. The people sitting around us were totally into it. It was just a blast of an evening, and the band didn't disappoint. Coming in number 21, let's go to February 25th, 2016 at Madison Square Garden, Black Sabbath, The End Tour. My brother Rich, my buddy Chris, and I, we went to an Irish pub beforehand, had a lot of Guinness, and just totally got into hearing all the classic Sabbath stuff for the last time. It was great. Magical evening for me, because, of course, you know how big a fan I am, right? So that was great. I've seen a lot of great Sabbath shows. I want to do an honorable mention to the show at the Brendan Byrne Arena from the Born Again tour, because I had to squeeze it out for something else here, with Sabbath with Ian Gillan and Quiet Riot. That was, I think, 1983, I believe. That was awesome as well. Coming in at number 20, kind of a weird one on my list, but a great concert nonetheless. And I'm not like I'm an enormous fan. I like the guy, but I just think this show was just extra special. Bruce Springsteen at Giant Stadium, July 18th, 2003. The world was still kind of reeling, especially New York, New Jersey area, still reeling from September 11th, a couple of years beforehand. And I think Bruce was just kind of like what everybody needed at the time. And, the place was sold out. There was so many people there. It poured like the whole fucking show. But we didn't care. My buddy and I had great seats. We were down on the floor, and we had been out drinking all day and just totally into it. And just the band, and they played for like almost 4 hours, and they played every song you'd want to hear. The E Street Band were terrific. Bruce was terrific, and it just was a real good kind of feel good shot in the arm for everybody who still a mess from everything that had happened. One of the great kind of like rock singer performances that I think I've ever seen. Really, really great. And I've seen Bruce a couple other times since then. It's been a while, though, but I think that first time is extremely memorable. Coming in at number 19, I'm going to go with Jethro Tull, the Beacon Theater, November 15th, 1995. So not long after the Roots to Branches album, right about this time where I think Ian still had a decent amount of voice left, and the band were just incredible. Played so many classic songs, played some stuff from the Roots to Branches album, just a fantastic performance. And I've seen Tull a lot of times, but that is one of the more memorable ones. Coming in at number 18, how about Pink Floyd at Yankee Stadium, June 10th, 1994, my one and only time seeing Floyd. That was pretty memorable. A lot of people there. A lot of people there. It just feels good and felt good to finally say I saw Pink Floyd. I had some chances during the 80s, didn't do it, and was glad I kind of caught them that last time around. Coming in at number 17, I'm going to go with something real recent. December 14th, 2009, at the Beacon Theater, Kansas. Again, I've seen Kansas many times. I've seen them with Steve Walsh, many times. But most of the time I started going to see Kansas like in the mid 1990s, and his voice was already starting to kind of lose it a bit then, and they were playing pretty predictable set lists most of the times that I'd seen them with Walsh. But this is the second time I've seen them with Ronnie Platt, and I will say it was the best. Amazing, they played Left Overture and Point of No Return in their entireties back to back. They played a selection of other classic favorites. The sound was absolutely stunning and spectacular. One of the best sounding concerts I've ever been to. Just everything about the whole evening was just absolute perfection. And that's sometimes a show like that where it just sounds great. It's not too loud. You can hear every instrument perfectly. The vocals were spot on. The crowd was into it. And the set list was just spectacular. And sometimes, you know what? That makes a classic concert. All right. Coming in number 16, we're going to go to 2002, August 4th in particular, The Who at Madison Square Garden. Just a couple months short, well, a couple months after John Entwistle's death, we had tickets for this. My buddy and I are thinking, wow, is this even going to happen? And, the show must go on. And I tell you what, Daltrey Entwistle was gone. Daltrey, Townsend and company, Zach Starkey and Pino Palladino and the whole crew, man, came out with a vengeance as if they were playing every little note for John. And it was just awesome. And it was probably, I've seen The Who a few times, easily the most powerful. Townsend had his guitar cranked up, man. He was just unleashed that whole evening. I never ever saw The Who that powerful. And they were amazing. And they played every song you'd want to hear. It was just a great tribute to Entwistle, a great, great concert. Coming in at number 15, I'm going to go with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Madison Square Garden, December 19, 2005. I believe, was that the first time or the second time? I think that was the first time. First time I'd seen them 3 times. That was the first time I've seen them, and took the family. We had a great time, and it was just so cool. That to me is a kind of rock and roll show to see around the holidays. And it was great to see my longtime buddy and schoolmate, who I know for a million years, Chris Caffrey, up there on the big stage at Madison Square Garden. That must have felt great for him. It was great for me to see and experience that. And I've seen him again numerous times since then, but that was pretty special. Coming in number 14, we're going to go back to 1992 at the Chance Theater in Poughkeepsie, New York, October 4th. The Dixie Dregs reunion tour. Man. I had seen the Steve Morse band, a few times during the 80s, but I never got to see the Dregs because obviously they were not together at the time until they reunited, and saw them a couple times after that. In fact, they'll be mentioning them again coming up soon. But, the Chance Theater is not a big place. It was a whole, 1,000 people, if that. And I was sitting there, and my jaw was on the floor the entire time. And, Morse is one of my all-time guitar heroes. And just seeing all these guys in the band, Jerry Goodman and T. Lavitz and Mr. Morgenstein and was that Andy West or was that trying to remember who was on bass at the time? I don't remember. It's a long time ago. But man, just unbelievable musicianship, and of course all the songs and great. Coming in at number 13, this concert is memorable for one reason. So this was Ozzy Osbourne and Metallica at the Brendan Byrne Arena on April 21st, 1986. This was the last time seeing Metallica with Cliff Burton before he passed away. And this was notable for, you often get asked, well, have you ever seen an opening band on the rise completely blow away an established headliner? No, this was one of them. No offense to Ozzy. This was, Ozzy with Jakey Lee. Ozzy was great, obviously. But, man, Metallica just completely decimated the entire arena. They, one of the best opening acts I've ever seen. On the big stage, obviously the Brendan Byrne Arena, big place, 15, 16, 17, 18,000 people. And just came out like a fucking runaway freight train. And it was just unbelievable to see. Everybody was into it. I remember I didn't even sit down there. We were just walking around and just everybody was just headbanging and, you knew what the lyrics to every song and fists flying in the air guitars going, neck snapping, man. It was just an unbelievable experience. And poor Ozzy and company, man. And they were great, but Metallica just completely blew them away. Number 12. How about Yes from the Union Tour? Most of the surviving members, or who cared to partake, on stage together in the round, July 15th, 1991. I had seen. This is my first. Because 91. So I had seen Anderson, Wakeman, Bruford, Howe prior, and then I caught them, I think, 3 or 4 times on this tour, on the Union Tour. The MSG tour show was spectacular. I mean, in the round, obviously sold out. You got White and Bruford and Howe and Rabin and Anderson and Squire and Kay and Wakeman. I mean, just was like, very cool. All they were really missing, Mraz, right? And Banks, basically. But yeah, it was pretty special. Pretty special. Say what you want about the Union album, but the tour, when it was on, was really, really good. Coming in at number 11, I'm going to go with Steve Ray Vaughan and Jeff Beck at Madison Square Garden, 11/11/89, November 11th, 1989. Not too long before we lost Stevie. And this was a great show because I think Jeff Beck opened up. It was the one and only time I've ever seen Jeff Beck. This was in the Guitar Shop tour. He was fantastic. Him and the band were great. Terry Bozzio, Tony Hymas, awesome. Stevie was awesome. I had seen him a couple times. This was Stevie, newly sober, very confident, played a spectacular set. Of course, Jeff came out and the two of them jammed together late in the set. I just remember walking out of Madison Square Garden completely buzzing. It was also kind of a noteworthy show because my longtime girlfriend at the time of 5+ years, that was actually the last concert we saw together, and a month later we broke up. But it happens, right? All right, so number 10, the top 10. Again, this order can change a little bit, but I'm going to go number 10, the Deep Purple Reunion Tour, all right? March 25th, 1985, Brendan Byrne Arena with Girls' School opening up. This is a big deal for a lot of people. And again, I've seen Purple many, many times. And I've seen them, perform great sets, during the Morse era. I've seen them a couple times with Blackmore. This, though, may not have been the best I've ever seen Deep Purple, but it was the classic Mark II era lineup, all right? And it was a big deal. This was a big deal. And I remember, I was going to college at the time. We all packed into a car, got loaded, and went down to New Jersey. And I remember just being like, wow, this, how cool is this? Never thought this was going to happen again. And here I was, a 19-year-old kid, just totally grooving to it, Good memories. Coming in at number 9, from the same year, in fact, a month and a half, 2 months before, January 20th, 1985, Radio City Music Hall in New York City, Iron Maiden on the Power Slave Tour, with Queensryche opening up Rage for Order Tour. Doesn't get much better than that, right? It was a Rage for Order, or was it The Warning? I don't remember now. I think it was pretty sure it was Rage for Order. And this, again, I've seen Maiden a ton of times, and I've probably seen Maiden better, but that was a spectacle. They had the whole power slaves set up, the ancient Egypt and all that. It was just mind-boggling. And, the Radio City stage is fucking enormous. And this just, this was great. And it was like the coldest day ever out. I remember my buddy and I, my girlfriend and another friend of ours, we were just walking through New York City. We went to a little, none of us were of age, right, at the time. Or maybe this was when we were of age. I don't remember, because there was a gap there where, 18, 19, I don't remember. And then we were legal for a year and then not legal. I don't remember. Whatever. But anyway, we went. It was so cold. We ducked into walking around New York City, we ducked into a liquor store and bought a bottle of black cherry brandy. Because we're like, we got to buy something to keep us warm. But we're all sitting outside sipping this stuff. And it was terrible. Sweet and strong. We're like, but you know what? It helped. It helped. This reminded me of another show that should have been on this list. I should have included the Heaven and Hell show. Ronnie James Dio, Vinny Appice, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, all right, otherwise known as Black Sabbath, doing their big show at Radio City. I was there. They filmed the whole thing, recorded the whole thing. That was really, really memorable. That should be on this list. That's an omission, all right? I just realized that was an incredible night. What else? Number 8, Megadeth and Sabotage at the Chance Theater, January 10th, 1988. Notable for a couple things. First of all, Sabotage, all right, with my good buddy Chris Caffrey, recently joined in the band. Okay, this was, of course, the Gutter Ballet Tour. And there he is on stage with his pink BC Rich, all right? I'm like, holy shit, that's my buddy from school. Very cool, and Sabotage were great. That was the only time I ever saw Sabotage, all right? Very sad. But they were amazing, playing all the stuff from that album, from Hall of the Mountain King and Sirens, and just amazing, Power of the Night, all that stuff. And then, of course, Megadeth absolutely slayed it. And this was, of course, the So Far So Good So What tour. So my now good buddy Jeff Young, who I didn't know back at the time, on guitar right in front of me, right? And I remember just Megadeth in the Chance. Everybody moshing all over the place. It was complete fucking mayhem. The band were on fire. If you go on YouTube, you can actually see most, if not that entire concert, that someone with a handheld camera recorded. It's just bedlam. It's packed. There's bodies flying everywhere and stuff. And I'm right down there in the front. So very notable show. I've seen a lot of shows at the Chance over the years. That's always one of my favorites. I saw Slayer at the Chance before Slayer got really big. It was crazy. Also at the Chance, number 7, the Jazz Explosion Superstar Band. Okay, that was February 25th, 1988. A lot of these shows were right around the same time. And that was like Stanley Clarke and Alan Holdsworth. I actually met Alan Holdsworth at the bar. How cool was that? Steve Smith on drums. I mean, just an incredible, incredible show. I wish those guys would have gotten together in the studio and did like an album or something like that, because just an amazing, just kind of like one-off tour. It was just amazing, amazing stuff. Coming in at number 6, I'm going to go with the first show I've ever seen, because it got it. It's just so memorable. Ozzy Osbourne and Motorhead, May 4th, 1981, Mid-Hudson Civic Center, Poughkeepsie, New York. Of course, with Randy Rhoads on guitar. Blizzard of Oz tour, people. Doesn't get much better than that. Being a little kid, I remember we were like in the 10th row. I remember, Motorhead, we were right in front of Lemmy, and he's sitting there like this with the microphone coming down. We're like, it was so loud. So loud. We almost didn't even get into the show because my father drove me and my buddy Tim to the show. He lets us out. We're like, yeah, whatever. He takes off down the street, and Tim's like, you got the tickets, right? I'm like, oh, shit. Left him in the car. We're like racing down the street, running after my father. Thankfully, he stopped at a red light, so we were able to bang on the door and say, "We left tickets in the car." And Ozzy, Ozzy was great, and seeing Randy Rhoads up there with playing the white Gibson Les Paul Custom and the polka dot Jackson V, awesome stuff. Coming in number 5. This was just like complete mayhem. If you were a metalhead in the late 80s and you got to see Slayer live on the Rain and Blood tour, pretty damn special. Madison Square Garden, August 31st, 1988, with Danzig opening up. Danzig were great. The man Slayer just came out there. There were cops everywhere. People were just going bananas. And this was at the theater at the Garden, or the old Felt Forum, so the underground part of the Garden. And I don't know how many people that holds, 5,000. I don't even know. We were sitting up in the bleachers, okay, because down below was fucking nuts. But they were great. Coming in at number 4, going to go with Dream Theater, Roseland Ballroom, New York City, February 26, 2000. This, of course, is the Scenes from a Memory Metropolis 2 tour, with the Dixie Dregs opening up. This was a special night. They played the whole album, all right, plus some assorted favorites. This, for me, was Dream Theater at their absolute, for me, that's like my favorite Dream Theater album. They were incredible on tour. You got Jordan Rudess, new to the band, firing on all cylinders. I've seen a lot of great Dream Theater shows, but this one, for whatever reason, always sticks out in my mind. I was there with a whole bunch of buddies of mine. We did a bunch of drinking beforehand. We were fired up, people, and I remember just sitting there. We were all just like totally into it. It was just so memorable. And I've seen Dream Theater more than any other band, well over 20 times. So, number 3, going to go with Black Sabbath and the Johnny Van Zant Band at the Brendan Byrne Arena, East Rutherford, New Jersey. August 22nd, 1982, Mob Rules Tour. Need I say more? First time seeing Sabbath, just loved it. I remember my brother and I went with a good friend of his, and his dad, who was my English teacher, dropped us off, and he drops us off in the parking lot, and there's people like burning crosses and garbage cans and throwing bottles all over the place, and there's a pretty heavy drinking crowd, and he's like looking at us like, I don't know if I want to leave you guys here. We're like, oh, we'll be okay. They were great. Ronnie on stage, and just so powerful. Coming in at number 2, a very recent show, Radio City Music Hall, September 21st, 2019, King Crimson. So I've seen King Crimson twice on their most recent tours. Got to see them like 2019, I believe, late 2017, I think was the time before. And man, did they bring it. I mean, their shows are like an experience now. It's like this orchestral kind of symphonic, free jazz symphony, prog rock symphony, man. It's just unbelievable. And it's lengthy. They play all sorts of really old stuff, and just, you got the 3 drummers and the 2 guitar players, and Fripp and company just killing it. Just an amazing. If you get to see King Crimson now, do it. You won't regret it. One of the best shows you'll ever see. I just remember walking out, me and Jeff Young went to see this together. And I saw the previous one up in the Egg in Albany with my buddy Sam. And I both times remember walking out of these shows like, my God, was that great. All right. And we're talking a lot of years of seeing concerts here that I'm ranking something up that high, right? That's how much it impressed me. Number one, though, my number one show has been my favorite concert that I've attended for a long time. And again, I've seen other bands that overall were probably better, but there was something about this night that was just so freaking magical. We're talking about Rainbow and the Scorpions, Straight Between the Eyes, Blackout, Madison Square Garden, June 19th, 1982. I was big into that Straight Between the Eyes album. Big into it. Big Blackmore fan. Love Rainbow. Was big into that album. Going to see them, they had the giant eye with the eyes with the lasers coming out, and they played all the stuff from Difficult to Cure. That album, did a couple of the Dio era albums, and Down to Earth with Bonnet. And Joe Lynn Turner was on big time that night. But man, the Scorpions came out. Another one of the best openers I've ever seen. Scorpions came out and just kind of like slayed it. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that Rainbow were such a good live band, Scorpions would have taken that evening, but it was close. And I think I became a huge Scorpions fan at that moment. And they were running around the stage and just, blazing solos from Matthias Jabs and just so many great songs. So many great songs from that album and a couple, a bunch from the ones before it. Played stuff from Love Drive and Animal Magazine. They didn't play a really long set, but man, sometimes you don't need to play a really long set to really make an impact. So that for me has always been, I just remember walking out of there, I was like cloud nine. And that's what you want out of a great concert, right? You want to walk out there thinking, man, did I just experience something far out, right? And, I was 16 years old. And I was like, man, I'm getting to see all my heroes, It's pretty special. So there you have it. That's my top 25 concerts of all time. Again, I could do a 50, I could do 100. I mean, I think you guys, I don't need to do another one because obviously I've already taken you through the whole kind of concert journal and going through the ticket stubs and all that kind of stuff. But for me to kind of put together my favorites, I think that's a pretty good list. And there's some, I wish I could have squeezed a Robin Trower show in here. I saw Gary Moore once, for crying out loud, too. I've seen Schenker a couple times that have been really, really impressive. It's you can't fit everybody here. I've seen a couple Joe Bonamassa concerts that have just knocked me on my ass. I saw a Government Mule show last year that was amazing. Porcupine Tree blew me away. I've seen lots of great bands at Nearfest. I mean, I still need to do the show where I talk about the Nearfest recollections, and my buddy of mine's going to join me on that. I need to reschedule with him. So, so many good shows. So many great shows. There you have it. All right. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. Once again. All right. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully you've been able to escape from coronavirus reality for a few hours and enjoy some of the stuff I put together for you today. Remember, just take care of yourself. Don't panic. All right. Don't be led into all this hysteria. Live your life, but just take precautions. All right. Respect your neighbors. Respect everybody, okay? But, do what's right for yourself, and just everything is going to be fine, all right? Just like anything else that comes into our way, we overcome it. But while we're trying to overcome things, hopefully channels like this can bring you some moments of, a little bit of a break from what's going on out there. And again, remember, music heals everything. I've always been a believer of that. When shit's going on in my life and I need to kind of disconnect from it, either talking about music with you guys or listening to it myself or playing it or whatever, that heals the brain, heals the soul, all right? It just heals the body. I'm telling you, it works if you let it. All right, guys? So we'll see you real soon. We'll see you this week. Like I said, what's coming up, I got probably, if not tomorrow or Tuesday, we've got Ranking the Studio albums of Humble Pie, Iron Butterfly, and Van Halen. Hopefully going to try and get to Santana sometime this week. Dio, the list is so long. All right, so just be patient. Things will come. All right, so we'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Have a good one, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.